Hi, today I want to show you how to create an assessment inside a Schoology course and also use Lockdown Browser in order to launch your assessment. So we're going to start with just the basics of creating an assessment inside Schoology. You go to your materials section as always and you click Add Materials. There's the old test quiz feature with the green. I don't recommend that one. I do recommend using the new blue puzzle piece that says Assessment. So I'm just going to click Add Assessment. I'm going to call this exam or whatever it is. You're going to want to set an accurate due date for it. So I'm just going to go ahead and assume here that we're looking at this date just for ease of use. You can or cannot set the points. It's going to depend on whether you're using the assessment tool just for the written component for your students who use a typing accommodation, or if you want to take the time to convert your entire assessment, which is highly recommended if you have time to do that because it will auto grade. But again, that's going to be a case-by-case basis. So what's great about this new assessment tool is you can determine when submissions are enabled. So you can give it a from blank until blank, or you can leave it currently disabled. It's up to you. You can also give a password. Again, that's going to be case-by-case basis. You have to pick a grading category. Obviously, we don't use the grade book, so leaving it ungraded is fine. Again, we're going to leave that setting for period. The factor would be how much it is duplicated into the grade. Again, not really relevant for us. So everything else you can leave as the default. And you press the Create button. Now, just for those of you who are wondering, yes, you can go back and edit those features later. So if you've set something in the beginning wrong, you can go back and fix it. So don't worry about that. All right, so this is where we're actually creating the test. I called it exam. It could be called whatever yours is called. Here's where you would type the specific instructions. This can be as detailed or basic as you want. This window drags. You can, bold, italic, all those kind of formatting features that you might need. So again, instructions as detailed as you want. We're in this panel now. We're kind of, think of it as we created the assessment with the basics, total points, what it's called, when it's open. Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of how this particular test is going to function. So these are assessment settings. Does it have a time limit? You can click yes and set the number of minutes, or no and use the proctor. There are other ways to set the time limit as well. Do you want the questions randomly ordered? This is a yes, no as well. Some show possible points. So in other words, as the student is working through the question, do you want them to know how many points it's worth? Is this a 10-point question? Is this a 1-point question? Those are that sort of thing there. What kinds of tools do you want available to them within the testing window? So can they flag for review, eliminate answer choices? As I've said before, this is a really robust testing feature. A calculator, ruler, protractor. So those are some math type things there. Can the student highlight text, use a notepad to jot down notes? Those are all, again, settings that are going to be specific to the sort of assessment you're using or creating. Can they view the results? Okay. After it's submitted, sorry, that to be really clear, that would be they've submitted their answer, or do they immediately get feedback with an exam? I would think you would want that answer to be no. It obviously, again, depends. If this were just a regular classroom assessment, you might give them yes with correct answers. I don't know. Number of times, again, be very, that's going to be specific, but one time I would think for an exam. So you hit save. You'll see it's really tiny, but right down here is where you can add questions. You can also go straight to questions here. So questions. There are a ton of questions that you can create, that you can add. You can even add little text blocks as well. Now, our recommendation is right now that we're using the Schoology assessment feature with the lockdown browser, which we haven't gotten to yet, for any sorts of questions that would require a student who has a typing accommodation to be able to fill in the text. So I'm thinking here, we're going to be looking mostly at short answer and essay questions. So you could see those dots, it's loading, giving me a place. Okay, so I can compose my question. What is the best thing about chocolate? All right, whatever. And you have lots of formatting options here. I mean, really, really quite a lot. This is, you can even insert some things there, video, if it was you wanted them to respond to a video prompt, lots of things you can do there. So, but this is just the question, okay? You can give a word limit. It starts with 10,000 words. That is a lot of words. I think that would be sufficient. You can make it so that they can see how many words they have left. Again, you're going to want to think about what that means for your students. I might turn it off unless you have a strong reason for having a word limit. I don't know. You would need to make that decision. So, as placeholder text for students would be something along the lines of, please type your response here. Okay. And we do have the option of aligning a rubric. That would be really useful if you had a built-in rubric already for how you were going to assess that written portion. So I can click save. And I have my one question. I could change the points if I wanted to. Again, that's going to depend on the particular assessment. So if you had multiple of these, they are drag and drop. And then you can also, as we saw from the beginning, reorder. When it is time to grade, I have 2 students enrolled in my example or my sample class here, but you would just be able to grade it right here. Okay. You have actions available for this as well, which is one of the ones is print assessment. That could be useful if you did decide to use the Schoology assessment tool. You could actually build your assessment and print from there. All right, so I am done right now with creating my assessment. And next part of this video, I am going to show you how to launch the assessment using Lockdown Browser. Okay, actually what I've decided to do is I'm going to create a second video on how to launch Lockdown Browser. So I've got my exam created. Notice I can always go back to my setup here to make adjustments, and then I can go back to my course by using that menu up there. You'll see my test is here. And remember, I promised that you could always go back and edit these features. So maybe I've decided that I'm ready to launch this test. I would hit enable. Again, let's not do that for an exam until it's time, but just wanted to show you that you can go back and make adjustments to this as well. It's going to be from here that we launch the Lockdown Browser, but I'm going to put that up in a second video. So thanks, guys, and look for that second video shortly.